I don't have time to find someone who understands what it means to put someone else first, Ethan whispered, his eyes fixed on the photo of his daughter on his desk. Because at the end of the day, I'm not just looking for someone to love me, I'm looking for someone who will love her too. In that moment, Ellie understood why this man, this father, had chosen solitude over companionship for all these years. And her heart shattered for him. If this story touches your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more stories that reveal the hidden struggles and triumphs of everyday heroes among us. The office Christmas party was in full swing when Ellie first noticed him, the quiet IT manager who always seemed to slip away before social events truly began. Ethan Reynolds, 38 years old, with kind eyes that crinkled when he smiled, which wasn't often enough according to the whispers around the water cooler. He stood by the refreshment table, checking his watch for the third time in 15 minutes. He's getting ready to make his escape again, said Diane from accounting, sidling up to Ellie with a glass of wine in hand. Same as every year. Ellie, new to the company and still learning the social landscape, watched as Ethan politely declined another drink from their overly enthusiastic boss. Does he not like parties? It's not that, Diane replied, lowering her voice. He's a single dad. Has a little girl, Emma, I think. 9 or 10 years old now. He never stays long at these things. Something about the way Ethan stood, slightly apart from everyone else, shoulders carrying an invisible weight, resonated with Ellie. Perhaps it was because she too felt like an outsider sometimes, having moved to this city just 6 months ago after her own life had fallen apart. Has he always been a single parent? Ellie asked, trying to sound casual. Diane shook her head. Car accident, about 5 years ago. His wife didn't make it. He doesn't talk about it much, or anything personal, really. Keeps to himself. Before Ellie could respond, Ethan was already saying his goodbyes to their boss, making his way toward the exit. Without fully understanding why, Ellie found herself following him. Leaving so soon, she called out as he reached the elevator. Ethan turned, surprise flickering across his face when he saw who had addressed him. They had worked together on a project last month. She was the new marketing coordinator with fresh ideas and a warm laugh that had momentarily brightened their tedious meetings. I promised my daughter I'd be home by 8, he explained, pressing the elevator button. We have a tradition of making hot chocolate and watching Christmas movies on Friday nights. Ellie smiled. That sounds wonderful. Much better than awkward office karaoke. The elevator arrived with a soft ding, but Ethan hesitated before stepping in. You're welcome to escape too, you know. I don't think anyone would notice. Oh, they'd notice. I'm the new girl, everything I do is still being catalogued and analyzed, she joked, though there was truth in her words. Ethan's expression softened with understanding. It gets easier. Give it time. As the elevator doors began to close, Ellie impulsively stuck her hand out to stop them. I've been meaning to ask you something about the Henderson account. It was a flimsy excuse, and they both knew it. But Ethan held the door open anyway. I'm actually heading out for coffee tomorrow morning before picking up Emma from her sleepover, he said. If you want to discuss it then? The cafe on Maple Street, around 9? Ellie nodded, surprised by his offer. I'll be there. The cafe was busy with Saturday morning customers when Ellie arrived, 5 minutes early and unnecessarily nervous. She spotted Ethan at a corner table, already nursing a cup of coffee, his attention focused on his phone. Everything okay? She asked as she sat down across from him. He looked up, quickly putting his phone away. Just checking in with Emma. First sleepover with this particular friend. Ah, the protective dad radar never turns off, does it? Not even for a minute, he admitted with a small smile. So, the Henderson account? Ellie felt her cheeks warm. That was just an excuse to talk to you, actually. I'm sorry. Instead of seeming annoyed, Ethan looked relieved. Good, because I was racking my brain trying to remember what problem we could possibly have with that account. They both laughed, and something shifted between them, a wall lowering, if only slightly. Over coffee, Ellie learned that Ethan had been with the company for 12 years, that Emma was indeed 9 years old and obsessed with astronomy, and that before becoming a single parent, he had been an avid rock climber. "What about you?" he asked. "What brought you to our humble marketing department?" Ellie hesitated, stirring her latte longer than necessary. "A fresh start, I guess. I was engaged, but it didn't work out. 3 weeks before the wedding, I found out he'd been seeing someone else, his ex, the entire time we were together." "I'm sorry," Ethan said, and the genuine empathy in his voice made her look up. "It's okay." "Well, it wasn't okay, but it is now. Mostly." She attempted a smile. "Anyway, I needed a change of scenery, so here I am." "Here you are," he echoed, studying her with newfound interest. Their conversation flowed easily after that, moving from work to books they'd read recently, to places they'd traveled. Ethan checked his phone periodically, but always returned his full attention to Ellie afterward. "I should get going," he said eventually, glancing at the time. "Emma will be waiting." "Of course," Ellie said, trying to hide her disappointment. This was nice. Ethan hesitated, then asked, "Would you like to join us for lunch sometime? Emma's been saying I need more friends. Apparently, it's sad that I only talk to her and my sister." Ellie laughed. "Out of the mouths of babes. I'd love to meet her." Lunch turned into an afternoon at the Children's Science Museum, where Emma proudly explained the planetary exhibit to Ellie while Ethan watched with obvious pride. Emma was a miniature version of her father, thoughtful, intelligent, with the same crinkle around her eyes when she smiled. "Dad never brings friends to our weekend adventures," Emma informed Ellie as they stood before a pendulum demonstration. "Is that so?" Ellie glanced at Ethan, who looked slightly embarrassed. "Nope. Just me and him, always." Emma swung her arms for emphasis. "Sometimes Aunt Jen comes too, but she's family so that doesn't count." "Well, I'm honored to be included then," Ellie said sincerely. Emma nodded solemnly. "You should be. Dad says we have to be careful who we let into our circle of trust." Ethan cleared his throat. "Emma, why don't you go check out the gravity well over there? I can see you from here." Once Emma was out of earshot, he turned to Ellie. "Sorry about that. She doesn't have much of a filter." "Don't apologize. She's wonderful," Ellie said. "And smart to be protective of your time together." Ethan watched his daughter drop a coin into the gravity well, her face lighting up as it spiraled downward. "After Sarah died, that was my wife," Emma became very attached. "Afraid to let me out of her sight. It's gotten better, but she still worries." "That's understandable," Ellie said softly. "You're her whole world." "And she's mine," he replied simply. The afternoon passed quickly, and when they parted ways in the museum parking lot, Emma surprised Ellie with a hug. "You're not boring like Dad's work friends," she declared. "You should come over for movie night sometime." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "That's high praise. Emma doesn't extend that invitation to just anyone." "Then I definitely accept," Ellie said, touched by the child's approval. Over the next few months, Ellie became a regular fixture in the Reynolds household. Movie nights, Sunday brunches, even helping Emma with her science fair project, she slipped into their lives with surprising ease. Ethan seemed to relax more in her presence, laughing more freely, the weight on his shoulders visibly lighter. Colleagues at work began to notice their friendship, raising knowing eyebrows when they arrived at meetings together or shared lunch in the break room. Ellie brushed off the speculation. What she and Ethan had was special, a friendship built on mutual respect and genuine enjoyment of each other's company. If there were moments when her heart beat faster when he stood close, or if she sometimes caught him looking at her with an expression that made her breath catch, well, that was something neither of them seemed ready to acknowledge. Until one evening in April, when Emma was spending the night at her aunt's house, and Ethan invited Ellie over for dinner, just the two of them. "I'm not much of a cook," he warned as he served pasta that was slightly overcooked. "It's perfect," Ellie assured him, touched by the effort he'd made, candles on the table, a bottle of good wine, music playing softly in the background. After dinner, they moved to the couch with their wine glasses, the conversation flowing as easily as it always did between them. But there was a new tension in the air, an awareness that without Emma's presence, the nature of their relationship felt suddenly undefined. "Can I ask you something?" Ellie said finally, setting down her glass. "Something personal?" Ethan nodded, his expression open but guarded. "Why haven't you dated anyone since Sarah? It's been 5 years, and you're—" She gestured vaguely at him, not quite able to say aloud how remarkable she found him. The question hung between them, heavier than she'd intended. Ethan was quiet for so long that Ellie began to regret asking. "I'm sorry, that's none of my business." "No, it's a fair question," he interrupted gently. "The simple answer is Emma. After Sarah died, all my energy went into helping her through her grief while managing my own. Dating seemed impossible." "And the complicated answer?" Ellie prompted softly. Ethan sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I don't have time to find someone who understands what it means to put someone else first," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Because at the end of the day, I'm not just looking for someone to love me, I'm looking for someone who will love her too." He reached for the framed photo on the side table, Emma at 7, missing her front teeth, beaming at the camera from atop Ethan's shoulders. "Emma doesn't remember much about her mother anymore. Just fragments. So whoever comes into our lives, they wouldn't just be my partner. They'd be the only mother figure Emma might ever know." His eyes met Ellie's, vulnerable and honest. "That's not a responsibility I can ask someone to take on lightly." Ellie felt her heart breaking for him, for the burden he carried, for the loneliness he'd accepted as the price of being the father his daughter needed. "What if?" she began, her voice trembling slightly. "What if someone wanted that responsibility? What if they already loved Emma, and you, and wanted to be part of your lives in whatever way worked for all of you?" Ethan set the photo down carefully, his eyes never leaving Ellie's face. "Are we still speaking hypothetically?" Ellie shook her head, unable to find words for the feelings that had been growing inside her for months. Ethan moved closer, taking her hands in his. "I need you to be sure, Ellie. Because Emma adores you, and if this doesn't work out—" "I've never been more sure of anything," she whispered. "I love your daughter. And I love you, Ethan Reynolds, your dedication, your kindness, your terrible pasta." He laughed, the sound catching on something that might have been a sob. "My pasta isn't that bad." "It really is," she said, smiling through tears she hadn't realized were falling. And then he was kissing her, gently at first, then with a hunger that spoke of years of loneliness finally breaking. When they pulled apart, breathless, Ethan rested his forehead against hers. "I love you too," he said. "But we take this slow, for Emma's sake." "As slow as you need," Ellie agreed. "We have time." Telling Emma proved easier than either of them had anticipated. Over pancakes the next weekend, Ethan nervously explained that he and Ellie had feelings for each other. Emma looked between them, fork paused midair. "Like boyfriend-girlfriend feelings?" "Yes," Ethan said cautiously. "How would you feel about that?" Emma considered this, chewing thoughtfully. "Does this mean Ellie will come over more often?" "If that's okay with you," Ellie said. "And you'll still help me with my science homework? Even though you're kissing my dad now?" Ethan choked on his coffee while Ellie laughed. "Absolutely. The kissing doesn't change the homework help." Emma nodded decisively. "Then I approve. But Dad, you have to promise not to be gross and mushy in public." Sophia's mom and stepdad are always hugging and stuff at school events, and it's embarrassing. I solemnly swear to keep the mushiness to a minimum, Ethan promised, relief evident in his voice. Later, as they cleared the breakfast dishes, Emma tugged on Ellie's sleeve. "Can I show you something in my room?" In Emma's bedroom, the little girl pulled a small wooden box from under her bed. "This is my mom," she said, opening it to reveal photographs, Sarah holding a newborn Emma, Sarah and Ethan on their wedding day, Sarah laughing at something off camera. "She was beautiful," Ellie said softly, recognizing the woman's smile in her daughter's face. "Dad says she would have liked you," Emma continued, carefully returning the photos to the box. "He says she'd be happy we're not sad all the time anymore." Ellie swallowed the lump in her throat. "I wish I could have met her." "Me too." Emma closed the box and returned it to its place under the bed. "But I'm glad you're here now. Dad smiles more since you started coming over." "I smile more too," Ellie admitted. Emma studied her with solemn eyes. "Are you going to be my stepmom someday?" The question caught Ellie off guard. That would be up to you and your dad, if that's something you both wanted." "I think I'd be okay with that," Emma decided. "As long as you don't try to make me eat Brussels sprouts. Dad says they're good for me, but I think they taste like dirt." Ellie laughed, relieved by the child's matter-of-fact acceptance. "No Brussels sprouts. I promise." The months that followed were filled with adjustments and discoveries as they navigated their new relationship. Ethan learned that Ellie sang off-key in the shower and couldn't sleep if her socks were mismatched. Ellie discovered that Ethan was terrified of heights despite his former rock climbing hobby, and that he still kept Sarah's favorite sweater in the back of his closet. They had their first argument when Ethan cancelled plans at the last minute because Emma was running a slight fever. Ellie, who had been looking forward to their evening out all week, couldn't hide her disappointment. "She's probably fine," Ellie said, immediately regretting the words when she saw Ethan's expression harden. "Probably isn't good enough when it comes to my daughter," he replied, his voice cool. "I didn't mean." "I know what you meant, Ellie. But this is my reality. Emma comes first. Always." The silence that followed was painful, filled with unspoken fears and insecurities. It was their first real test, the collision of Ethan's established priorities with Ellie's desire to be important in his life too. Later that night, after Emma had fallen asleep with a normal temperature, Ethan called Ellie. "I'm sorry," he said without preamble. "I overreacted." Ellie sighed. "No, I was being selfish. Of course Emma comes first." "But that doesn't mean your feelings don't matter," Ethan countered. "I've been doing this alone for so long, I'm not used to considering someone else's needs alongside ours." "And I've never been a parent," Ellie admitted. "I don't always understand the instincts that drive you." They talked for hours that night, laying bare their fears, Ethan's terror of failing Emma, Ellie's worry that she would always be an outsider in their established family unit. By the time they hung up, something fundamental had shifted.